Here we have the temperature in degrees Celsius in green and below it in Fahrenheit. And in the video today, we'll show you how to do that using MakeCode and Phidgets. So to start, I'm going to go to phidgets.com/education, and that will bring me to this homepage here. And then from there, I can click on the MakeCode button at the top here. MakeCode, if you haven't been here before, it has a bunch of built-in projects and tutorials for Phidgets. But today what we're going to do is we're just going to click on the new project button right here, and that will generate a new project for us. And basically the goal for today is to create that graph that we saw earlier. So basically one graph showing temperature in degrees Celsius and one showing in Fahrenheit. So in order to do that, we're going to be using the humidity fidget. So we can see here we have a vent hub and we have a humidity fidget, and they're connected with a short cable there. And then there's a USB cable that's connected to my computer. So if it's the first time that you're on the MakeCode website, you're going to see a button down here that says Connect Device. So we're just going to want to click on that, and you're going to get this prompt here, basically just saying, hey, make sure that your Getting Started kit or your fidget is connected to your computer with the USB cable. So essentially that's saying make sure that your vent hub is connected to your computer. And if we press next, it'll give us some information. But essentially the main thing here is that when this window pops up, you just want to make sure that you're connecting, you're pressing connect. So that will actually pair your browser to this vent hub here. So if you plug in a different vent hub, you're going to have to do that again. But if you're on the same computer and you open a different tab or something like that, it will remember the hub and you won't have to pair it again. So just make sure that you have device connected here, and then we can start coding. So again, the goal is to get those two graphs, temperature and humidity, or sorry, temperature in Celsius and temperature in Fahrenheit. So in order to do that, we have a few different options here. We're going to look in the sensors tray here, and this will show all the different sensors that you can use with Phidgets. So as we saw, we wanted to do temperature. So we're going to scroll down until we see temperature. And then we have two options here. So both of them can be used for this project. Today, we're just going to use this one right here. So this is when you're polling for the temperature, or you're getting the temperature. And then the other option is a vent. So just depending on how you want to set up your project, one or the other might work. But for now, we're going to use the get, and then we're going to grab a forever loop. So what I want to do is I want to display it on that graph. So in MakeCode, you can go to the console option right here. And if you press on that, you have a few different options. The one that we're going to use, because we're graphing multiple values, is this one here. So it says console log value, and then you have an option to create a title for the value basically. And then you have the value that you actually want to log. So what we're going to do is we're going to put temperature degrees Celsius basically. So we can say like degrees Celsius. And then for our data, so we have to put data here. So if I just ran this as it is right now, it would just keep spinning forever and it would keep logging 0. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag in temperature. And now essentially what's going to happen is every time this loop kind of goes around, it's going to log the temperature from the temperature sensor. And then again, just to note, if you're on port 0, or if you're depending on the port you're on, you're going to want to click on that. So here I'm on port 0, so I'm okay with that. But if you are on a different port, just make sure that you set that correctly. So now this by default is in degrees Celsius. So we can see that here it says temperature in degrees Celsius. So now if we run this, so we run it, let me just show that again actually. We run by clicking this green arrow. So this originally was up here, but there's a green arrow here, and that will run your program. So whatever you have on your editor here. So we get a few different things as an output. So first we get this little kind of diagnostic here that's saying port 0, there's a temperature sensor, and this is the current value. But the nice thing about using console log is that you also get this pop-up right here that says show data. So if we click on that, we're actually going to get a graph that actually shows us the live temperature data. So here we have temperature in degrees C, and this is basically that live stream of data. So now what we want to do is we want to also log the temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So basically we just have to do a little bit of math to get from Celsius to Fahrenheit. So what we can do is we can go to this math block, the math tray down here, and we have a bunch of different options here. So what we're going to want is we're going to want to multiply, and we're going to want a addition. So essentially, in order to get from temperature Celsius, we can go temperature Celsius, and we can times that by 1.8. And then we're going to take the result of that. So I'm going to put it in here, and we're going to add. So maybe I'll put this in here actually so that it's a little bit, potentially a little bit easier to read. So essentially we have temperature degrees Celsius port 0 multiplied by 1.8, and then we're going to add 32. So that's how you convert from temperature in Celsius to temperature in Fahrenheit. And then I'll just change this label here so that we have the correct label. And then in MakeCode, you can right click on blocks and we can duplicate things. So I'm just going to duplicate that. And then I will say this one will be degrees Celsius. And then we'll just get rid of this big block here, and we'll just pull in the temperature in Celsius. So now essentially we're logging the temperature in Celsius, we're logging the temperature in Fahrenheit. And if we run our program again, we can see, so again, we see on port 1 or on port 0, this is what's happening. So we don't expect to see two values here because there's only one kind of core value from the sensor. But then if we open up the data tab, now we can see both of those values. So we see here temperature in degrees Celsius is 24.3, and then temperature in degrees Fahrenheit is 75.7-ish. And basically this will just keep going forever. So if you wanted to, monitor the temperature in your classroom over the course of a day, you could do that. The nice thing with MakeCode as well is that there's these buttons up here that let you do some other cool things. So for example, I could pause my recording and it'll just stop it. And then I can actually download the results. So I can export the data as a CSV. So I'll do that here. And that will download a CSV. So CSV is a comma separated value spreadsheet basically. And then here, if we open this up, you can actually see all that data that we just collected. So we have time and temperature. So temperature in degrees Celsius, temperature in degrees Fahrenheit. So you could actually download this data, bring it into Excel or another spreadsheet program and do some graphing or do some analysis on it if you wanted to. So there's that temperature there. And we can see it ranged between 24.28 and 24.38. So you could do things like you could create a project where you're calculating the maximum value, the minimum value, the average, things like that. So that is how you do some basic sensor logging with MakeCode. If you have any questions, please let us know, and thanks for watching.